over a century, a tradition of intercollegiate athletic excellence has been strong in central Nebraska. This is an inside look at that tradition. This is the University of Nebraska-Kearney Loper Review. Loper Review is brought to you by Nebraska Star Beef, from our family to yours.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Loper Review. I'm your host, Randy Bushcutter. This month we're coming to you from Foster Field, which is marking its 75th anniversary as the home of Loper football. We'll take a brief look at the lengthy history of Foster Field. Plus, we'll see members of the football team, how they've stepped off the field to reach out to the community. And we'll check out a junior volleyball program started by a Loper graduate assistant coach. The men's basketball team provides our guest for this month's Senior Spotlight. And Antelope 101 will wrap up our special series looking at the Charlie Foster era of Kearney State athletics. It's a busy schedule we think that you'll enjoy as we continue with Loper Review right after this.
Loper Review is brought to you by Nebraska Star Beef.
The Nebraska Star Beef Pure Promise. No antibiotics, no hormones, humane treatment of animals, USDA choice or higher, a price that is always fair, and satisfaction guaranteed. At Nebraska Star Beef, we pay close attention to what we feed our families and are passionate about delivering beef that you can feel good about serving to your family. Visit us at nebraskastarbeef.com for more information.
Programming is made possible in part by the Museum of Nebraska Art in Kearney. From the artist explores through the modern era to the art of today, Mona tells the story of Nebraska through the art of Nebraska. Whether you're online at mona.unk.edu or on our doorstep, there's always something new to see and do.
That school bus is yellow for a reason. Yellow means caution. Those flashing lights are red for a reason. Red means stop.
Hey girl, what's up? Nothing much.
Never pass a stopped school bus. Don't pass from either direction. It's not just the law, it's a child's life.
Brought to you by the University of Nebraska at Kearney, Child Safety Network, School Bus Safety Company, and the Nebraska Safety Center. Keeping Nebraskans safe, one day at a time.
You're watching the Nebraska Star Beef Loper Review.
Welcome back. Well, this fall hasn't gone the way that the UNK football team would like in terms of wins and losses. But early this season, the team captains had a unique experience that definitely was a winner. The Lopers visited patients at Kearney's CHI Good Samaritan Hospital and residents at the Grand Island Veterans Home.
Well, the coaches talked to us about doing it in the athletic department. You know, we need to get out in the community and show that, you know, we care just as much about our fans as they care about us. And we thought, you know, what a better way to go to the hospital and talk to a couple of people that are a little under the weather right now and, you know, show them that we care about them just as much as they care about us.
Yeah, Coach Batter came up to the captains after one of the practices and told us about it. And we all thought it was, a great opportunity to give back to the community that's given so much to us. I mean, to get outside of football and school and go out and see some other people.
I was really kind of looking forward to it, actually. You know, the community comes out and supports us, and it's always nice to give back. And the people there were great. The patients were, you know, happy to see us, and you know, it was really nice talking to them and just cheering them up. So I really enjoyed it. It was a good experience.
I expected just to come out and meet some of the community and just meet the people that comes out and supports us and everything like that. And outside of sports, and I mean, I like living here and I like people who's in this community, so it was real nice to get out there and see what they had to offer.
I was in the maternity ward, you know, talking to a bunch of the parents that have a bunch of newborns, and you know, they were more than happy to have us come in and talk to them, and you know, we congratulated them on their, you know, newborn boy or girl, whatever it be, and you know, so a lot of people were just really happy to see us.
Yeah, I mean, it was a memorable experience the whole way through, and my favorite part was probably meeting the 2 newborn twins that we was holding, and I mean, who knows, they could end up being, you know, the next president or Michael Phelps or anything like that. So just new life, and they have, you know, clean slate, and just seeing whatever they're going to be able to become, and just think I was one of the first people to meet them, so that was pretty cool.
And they were pretty small, and me and Ro got to hold them and take some pictures with them and sign some footballs and stuff, so that was pretty cool, pretty neat experience, and that's one thing I'll always remember. There was a little joking around going on, and Ro actually brought it upon himself. They kind of said, "Hey, Ro, you hold the baby because, you know, you're the running back, that's your job," and he kind of cracked a joke saying, "Well, I did have my first fumble last week," so we kind of got a little chuckle out of that.
The thing I remember most is, you know, talking to some of the fathers of the newborn babies that I, you know, talked to, and, you know, a couple of them had boys, and they were, you know, we handed out footballs to them, and, you know, they were pretty happy about that, and they're like, well, he'll know how to use it in a couple of years.
Me and Tyke went and talked to some of the older people, and we gave them some footballs, and just seeing the smiles on their faces, and just having a normal conversation with someone, and just how that can make someone's day. I really thought that stood out, and it was nice to be able to do that.
Well, those twin newborns that made such an impression on the football team, it'll be quite a few years before they're involved in any athletics. But there are some young volleyball players who are off to a great start learning their sport, thanks to a former Loper player and current graduate assistant, Kaylee Anderson. The program itself is not associated with UNK, but having the Lopers have such a successful team right here in Kearney certainly doesn't hurt. The young ladies get together with Coach Anderson Sunday afternoons at Kearney High School.
So we tried to focus on, the first few weeks we focused on very specific skills like passing, setting, serving, and as we got into the 12 weeks we started to focus on more of the kind of off the court mental side of it. We talked about attitude and hard work and being a good teammate, and today we talked about confidence and how it's really important to stay confident in yourself even when you make mistakes, and it is an important thing in volleyball. So along with our confidence day, we had a crazy hair day, which is always a favorite of the girls. They go nuts, and so that's why I get my lovely hairdo today. It's not normally this crazy. I mean, it's pretty close to this crazy, but yep. So today was crazy hair day, and we talked about confidence.
I like it. I want to do it more. So.
What do you like best about it?
I don't know. It's just fun, encouraging. I've learned more stuff.
What are some of the things that you learned that you enjoyed the most?
Pride to hit or to overhand serve.
I think my inspiration was, I have 2 younger sisters. I have a sister who's 12, and then I have a sister who's now in college, but I think I've just had such great role models, and I wanted to be able to be a role model to some of these girls, and I know that my sister has had good and bad programs, and I wanted to just create a program that really helps girls be able to enjoy volleyball, have fun, stay active, and ultimately develop confidence. Well, I mean, I have 2 major role models. One of them, of course, is my dad. He's kind of always run youth clinics and stuff like that, and he's been a big part of me wanting to be able to have an impact and serve others and serve the children of this community and girls of this community. And so that's kind of my main inspiration is him. And then also I did a lot of camps with Coach Squires, and he obviously knows so much about volleyball, and I learned a lot from him and just the way you teach, I mean, all the skills. And I think from being around him and running camps with him over my years as a player, once I got done playing and I kind of got to the point where I could do some of these things on my own legally from an NCAA standpoint, it was a easier transition because I had those role models of Coach Squires teaching me all through the years, and then also my dad kind of doing these things on and off his whole coaching career. Obviously the main priority is just to be able to teach them the volleyball skills. That always comes first, but they are so young that some of those things don't always come easily, so I think we always try to reiterate or try to focus on that it's a process, and we want them to try to get better, but not necessarily be comparing themselves to others, but just working to get better. And I think with my background of playing, I think I understand how to teach them in a very simplified way where they do get better as long as they're practicing, and so I am happy that I get the opportunity that they're here and they get to come practice with me every week.
Hard work sometimes, and then a lot of time it's fun. I think most of the time it's fun. She's fun, she's encouraging, she's nice.
I think we have an amazing staff who comes and they honestly care about the well-being of the girls, and I think that's helped our reputation of people wanting to sign up because they want their daughters to be able to learn the volleyball skills and hopefully be able to feel good about themselves when they leave. And I think the reputation hopefully has helped us be able to get to a point where we have people come back. And because I've told them 3 or 4 times, I think that they're able to respond a little bit better, and I think they're picking up some of the information more. So it's been a long 12 weeks, not a bad 12 weeks, but hopefully the girls aren't sick of me yet. And so we're going into our last week, and I'm kind of sad about it, but it's been good.
Well, right now it's time for us to take a quick break. We're back right after this.
Loper Review is brought to you by Nebraska Star Beef.
The Nebraska Star Beef Pure Promise. No antibiotics, no hormones, humane treatment of animals, USDA choice or higher, a price that is always fair, and satisfaction guaranteed. At Nebraska Star Beef, we pay close attention to what we feed our families and are passionate about delivering beef that you can feel good about serving to your family. Visit us at nebraskastarbeef.com for more information.
Programming is made possible in part by the Museum of Nebraska Art in Kearney. From the artist explores through the modern era to the art of today, Mona tells the story of Nebraska through the art of Nebraska. Whether you're online at mona.unk.edu or on our doorstep, there's always something new to see and do.
That school bus is yellow for a reason. Yellow means caution. Those flashing lights are red for a reason. Red means stop.
Hey girl, what's up? Nothing much.
Never pass a stopped school bus. Don't pass from either direction. It's not just the law, it's a child's life.
Brought to you by the University of Nebraska at Kearney, Child Safety Network, School Bus Safety Company, and the Nebraska Safety Center. Keeping Nebraskans safe, one day at a time.
You're watching the Nebraska Star Beef Loper Review. Welcome back to Loper Review. It's time now for our senior spotlight, and it's my pleasure to have as our guest Ben Petersen, a senior from Minden. And Ben, you started your career at Midland University in Fremont. What prompted you to transfer to UNK?
Well, a lot of it was it just wasn't the right fit for me. It was a long ways from home. My parents traveled about 3.5 hours, every time they wanted to come watch me play basketball. And that had a lot to do with it. A little bit more of it was just the class size was just a little too small for me. I don't know, I just wanted a little bit bigger feel when it came to school. A lot of it felt like high school again to me, and I wanted something different.
The first year you transferred, and Coach Kropp will be very frank about this, there was just not a good chemistry on the team, and it led to one of the worst seasons, both wins and loss wise, and as far as any chemistry on the team was concerned. Did you think at any time maybe this had been a mistake?
Not really. I always enjoyed playing here. Even that year it was definitely a down year. We never really meshed as a team. There was always conflicts between players and coaches. It wasn't really an issue for me so much, but it was. I never felt like I made the wrong decision coming to Kearney because I really enjoyed the community and honestly my coaches as well.
What were some of the things that you drew upon to keep yourself going and to kind of rise above that?
My family, a lot of it. You know, I would always vent to my parents about something that happened at practice, or, you know, just any issue I had, and they would always, you know, say, stick with it, you know, you got to finish this, finish what you started.
Last year, things turned around quite a bit, had some new players on the team, had, as Coach Kropp said, a situation of addition by subtraction as well. Did the players who came back last year put the year before out of their minds, or they try and make a positive out of the situation?
Yeah, you know, you always try to put something that negative behind you a little bit, but I think we also tried to learn from it, you know, make sure the same thing didn't happen again. We came together tighter as a team, and obviously it helped us turn around our season a little bit.
The Lopers are somewhat average as when it comes to players leaving before they finish their eligibility, about 4 a year, which is not that uncommon these days in the NCAA Division II. And you started with an entire new team at Midland, transferred here, had to get used to an entire new team, and you've had to get used to about 4 or 5 new faces every year since then. What is the challenge of bonding with new players and making the situation as positive as possible?
You know, it's just a process. You have to, you know, it takes time. You just spend time with the guys in your team. You know, you see them every day in practice, you know, during workouts. And yeah, you just become closer, you know, kind of all bond together to face the misery of, you know, running sprints or, you know, whatever the case may be. But it's really, I've gotten used to it, having done it 3 times now. But it's yeah, it's just a process. It just takes time.
Part of the reason that there is the turnover, sometimes it's like your case in Midland, just wasn't a good fit, but also the coaches sit down with the players at the end of every year and kind of talk about their situations and suggest that perhaps they may or may not be getting as much playing time as they would like. You had a pretty good sophomore year as far as playing in about half the games. Last year, not so much. What was your postseason meeting like with the coaches, and was that ever part of the equation when you talked to them?
Yeah, you know, I almost was forced to hang up my shoes, you know, like stop playing, because they weren't sure if they would have enough scholarship room for me this season. But they called me a couple days later, you know, and said that they had the money to, you know, keep me on scholarship. So I'm back for another year.
Well, very good. Get away from basketball a little bit, at least not basketball at UNK specifically, but being an exercise science major. Where do you see Ben Petersen 3, 4, 5 years down the road?
Well, hopefully with a job. But I'm planning on going into a nutrition or dietetics field. It's just something I've always been really interested in, and it's, you know, I hope I can make a decent amount or decent living in that field.
Anything from your family background that led you in that direction, or what kind of is your motivation there?
It's just my field of interest, honestly, because my dad's a farmer, my mom's a teacher. Not a lot of exercise science studying going on in there, but it's just something I've always been really interested in. And it probably has a little bit to do with the fact that, you know, I'm in athletics. Nutrition is a big part of being physically fit.
After you transferred from Midland, was there ever a moment when it was a situation where you said, okay, this was definitely the right decision?
Yeah, almost immediately, honestly. I moved into the dorms my sophomore year and immediately just made, like, you know, 4 or 5 friends, and 2 of those friends I'm actually roommates still with today. And they just really made the transition easy. Once I met the team, they made it even easier because they just welcomed me in with open arms, and that was a really cool feeling.
This is our stock question for Senior Spotlight, and although I ask it knowing that there's still quite a bit of time for you to have even better experiences and have a great senior year, but what might be 1 or 2 of the most positive things that you think you'll take with you from your time here at UNK?
Probably, the relationships. Coach Kropp always talks about the most important thing in sports is the relationships, because when I graduate, even, depending how the season goes, say I have a dynamite season, no one's going to remember that in 5 years. But the relationships I make on the team, it's going to make, years down the road, I'll still have those friends. Okay, well, very good. Anything we haven't talked about that you might want to mention that, as far as your experience as a Loper? It's been a great ride, and I look forward to the rest of this year.
Well, very good, and thank you very much for being our guest today. Ben Petersen, senior on the men's basketball team on Senior Spotlight, and we'll have more on Loper Review coming up right after this.
Loper Review is brought to you by Nebraska Star Beef.
The Nebraska Star Beef Pure Promise. No antibiotics, no hormones, humane treatment of animals, USDA choice or higher, a price that is always fair, and satisfaction guaranteed. At Nebraska Star Beef, we pay close attention to what we feed our families and are passionate about delivering beef that you can feel good about serving to your family. Visit us at nebraskastarbeef.com for more information.
Programming is made possible in part by the Museum of Nebraska Art in Kearney. From the artist explores through the modern era to the art of today, Mona tells the story of Nebraska through the art of Nebraska. Whether you're online at mona.unk.edu or on our doorstep, there's always something new to see and do.
That school bus is yellow for a reason. Yellow means caution. Those flashing lights are red for a reason. Red means stop.
Hey girl, what's up? Nothing much.
Never pass a stopped school bus. Don't pass from either direction. It's not just the law, it's a child's life.
Brought to you by the University of Nebraska at Kearney, Child Safety Network, School Bus Safety Company, and the Nebraska Safety Center. Keeping Nebraskans safe, one day at a time.
You're watching the Nebraska Star Beef Loper Review.
Welcome back. Well, we're going to continue our series looking at Charlie Foster and Antelope 101 here in a few moments, but first we want to take a look at over 100 years of football played on campus, and 75 of those years being played at this area now known as Foster Field. When the Antelopes began playing football, the field was just north of 24th Street, where Thomas Hall is now located. About 10 years later, the field was moved, although not very far. The big difference was the grandstand that made attending games a much more pleasant experience for fans. In 1930, the field again shifted northward, but only about 100 yards or so. The big improvement this time was the addition of floodlights that made it possible for Kearney to be one of the first towns in the Midwest to host a night game. What is currently known as Foster Field was completed in 1939 and had a seating for almost 3,000. 20 years later, that number was increased by almost 50%, and much to the delight of local reporters, a heated press box was added. It was also the first time that the field was given Coach Foster's name. Even the complete change in location for the earlier fields couldn't match the dramatic changes to the facility brought by the construction of Ron and Carol Cope Stadium. Although the three-story facility still uses the original bleachers, the rest of the building has first-rate accommodations for coaches, media, has hospitality rooms, and significantly nicer restrooms for all fans. Ironically, one of the biggest changes to the facilities, one that may have had Coach Foster rolling over in his grave, was the removal of the track in the late 1990s. With all that in mind, time now to check in with Nikki Thompson, who's going to give us more insight on why the university has chosen to name their football field after Charlie Foster.
Hello, and thank you for joining me for another edition of Antelope 101. This month we put the finishing touches on our look back at the Charlie Foster era for the Lopers, with a spotlight on the women's track team, a team that would become known far and wide as Charlie's Angels. The term Charlie's Angels was a take on the title of the very popular television show of the same era. However, Charlie Foster and the Antelope women's track program preceded the debut of the TV show by several years. The creation of the women's track program was a direct outgrowth of the passage of Title IX in 1972, forcing schools who received government financial support to provide equal athletic opportunities for women. The timing couldn't have been better for Charlie Foster. It's no secret that he wasn't happy about having to retire in 1971, forced out by state-mandated age limits. However, a loophole was found that allowed him to return to coach the women's program. Success for the women's team was there from the very beginning, which happened to be an indoor dual meet at Cushing Coliseum with Nebraska Wesleyan on March 9, 1973. The Antelopes would win every event against the Plainswomen. The Antelopes would really get people's attention with an 80-11 outdoor duel win over Kansas State in 1974 and a 91-81 win over the University of Kansas outdoors in 1975. Records do not indicate if the Kansas schools sent their A teams or not. Among the most remarkable accomplishments for Charlie's Angels was winning 13 out of 14 Central States Conference championships. Coach Foster was assisted by Jane Morehouse for the first 5 years, and then Mary Eiton was his assistant for 2 years starting in 1978. Eiton would take over as head coach in 1980, but Coach Foster would be her assistant until his death in 1984. While Coach Foster may be best remembered for his years with the women's track program, one of his most significant contributions to the Antelope athletics is often overlooked. During his years as athletic director, he either resurrected several sports or started them from scratch, including baseball, cross country, golf, tennis, wrestling, and women's basketball. Cushing Coliseum was also constructed during this era. The cross-country team would win every conference championship from 1957 to 1966, with the exception of a single second-place finish in 1959. In the future, Antelope 101 will take a closer look at some of the outstanding athletes and teams during the Charlie Foster era. But for now, we hope you've enjoyed our special series on the man who laid the foundation for Loper's success in the second half of the 20th century. Please join us again next month for another edition of Antelope 101.
Well, thank you, Nikki. And actually, that's going to wrap up our Loper review for the fall sports season. And as you can tell, it's been a beautiful fall. Next time we join you next month, no guarantees it'll be that warm when we take a look at some of the winter sports. Until then, thanks for joining us. See ya, and go Lopers.
Loper Review is brought to you by Nebraska Star Beef.
The Nebraska Star Beef Pure Promise. No antibiotics, no hormones, humane treatment of animals, USDA choice or higher, a price that is always fair, and satisfaction guaranteed. At Nebraska Star Beef, we pay close attention to what we feed our families and are passionate about delivering beef that you can feel good about serving to your family. Visit us at nebraskastarbeef.com for more information.